even to attempt this thing. And what I want to do tonight is I am such a stickler to the text, and I continue to learn. And my problem is, I think I should teach you, when in fact probably it would not be that necessarily that I need to do that. But since you are part of this process, I still feel that I need to do that. In Isaiah chapter, we're in Isaiah tonight again. Where'd everybody go? Did everybody go to the nursery? Sorry, only one person to a nursery, only one. But we're glad that you're here tonight, and I trust that you are doing okay.
Mm-hmm.
You all right, Richard?
Yeah.
Anything you want to say tonight? I used to come to church dying to say something, but the preacher never asked me to say anything.
But that's why you never asked me to say anything.
I don't ask Bill to say anything. I know.
You don't need to say something. Me and Bill both, we do a lot.
Yeah, Dad isn't.
Yeah, we'll just speak up.
I don't know no better.
I really don't mind that.
That's why it's a Bible study.
It is a Bible study, and you know where I'm going to be when I get there. So I finally trained Bill to stick with the current verse. But anyway, that's good. I have a lot I want to say that I have to refrain from saying because I want to get to the text. This section is the most important document in Isaiah's files. I was studying this. If you understand this chapter properly, it will unlock the rest of Isaiah for you. And I read that statement. I read that statement. When you are studying from others, it doesn't take much to realize how little you really know.
Amen.
It's almost embarrassing to know how much you don't know. But it's such a thrill to know that you can learn more than what you already know.
Mm-hmm.
My problem is I want to teach you what I know. And you're saying, I don't want to know what all you know.
I can't contain it.
It's hard to do that. My other objective is, I don't want to, my objective is not to give you all information and knowledge for the purpose of information and knowledge. I should never teach a lesson in any form without helping you understand that there is application. There is application. There's pins there somewhere in it. There's application to every text in every sermon. So if all you're doing is getting information, that's good, but I want you to be able to learn something from it that you can apply to your life. And you should be able, on a weekly basis, at some point in your life, say, you know, I'm glad I learned that. And it's useful material. What I want you to grasp in this particular lesson, if you don't get anything else from this lesson, and I am so thrilled that there are people, men and professors who have been given the gift of unlocking for us the ability to grasp how to understand Scripture. If I had to do all over again, I would be in seminary, and I probably would spend 7 or 8 years in seminary before I'd even try to attempt to preach. But that wasn't the style in our day. Our style in our day was just to open your mouth and let it fly. There was little emphasis on teaching us how we are to learn to interpret Scripture. And I think the reason we get so mixed up in our doctrine, in our thinking, is because we haven't grasped how to understand Scripture. And I share with you, since I've pastored this church the last 4 years, I can share with you my understanding of Scripture and how to interpret Scripture has come to greater light than I ever had before I ever got here. I've been preaching for 30 years and thought I had the difference is I can preach sermons because I glean them from other people, other preachers and commentaries. But that doesn't mean I know how they arrived at that interpretation. And I was telling Winston this past week, he asked me, what is your belief on a certain subject that he wants to preach during this Bible study, this Bible conference. He said, I want to make sure that you agree with what I'm saying. I don't want to preach something that you don't agree with. And I thought that was good for him to say that. And I said, I have developed my thinking over the years, and I'm the type of person, you know what you believe. If I would ask you, what do you believe? And you'll say, I believe that. And if I asked you, why do you believe that? And most people would say, well, I just believe it. Do you know why you believe that? Well, I don't really know why I believe it, but I just believe it. If I was asked you, do you believe in the doctrine of the Trinity? And all of you are going to say yes. And then I would ask you, what is the doctrine of the Trinity? Well, I don't really know, but I still believe in it. And I understand that. And then you say, how does that relate to each one? I don't know that I know that, but I just know I believe it. I'm the type of person, I want to know why I believe it. If you ask me, I'm a dispensationalist, I want to know why I'm a dispensationalist, and is it biblical to believe that? And so, when it comes to studying the Scripture, I have spent so much time looking at the Scripture a couple of ways. The first way, in the first wave of this, and I'll get back to it, I have probably spent looking at this probably somewhere between time I got to Isaiah chapter 9, this was page 149. I had written 149 pages on the book of Isaiah chapter 9. And when I finished chapter 9, I had gone to 174. So how many pages is that? 174 subtract 149. Can you figure that out for me? How many pages is it?
24 or 26.
So the material that I got was in sermonette form. It was in a sermonette form, and meaning that this is how I wanted to present to the class what I believe is the application to this text, and it makes it interesting to do that. And then I began to go back, and I'm saying is, how do I arrive at that understanding? How do I arrive at that interpretation? And so as I was studying this, is one thing that I had wished that I had learned better was Hebrew. I wished that my son took Hebrew in college and came out wondering why the heck he had Hebrew. and he didn't have any. See, you can have a lot of knowledge and not know why you have it.
Amen.
You can have the knowledge and not know how to apply it. And so he took Hebrew, and yet he came out thinking, why do I need Hebrew? And then he took Greek in Pensacola Christian College. And he said, I don't know why I need Hebrew or Greek. And now he's a fireman. He spent 8 hours this past week with a crew, with a lot of crew. It was a chemical spill. And he had on his chemical suit, and he had training, and he didn't know whether or not he would ever use it. But they had trained him on how to deal with chemicals that is very dangerous. But he took the training. Well, he realized this week that training came in handy. It's better to have the training and never use it than not have the training and have to use it.
Amen.
And so you say to yourself, well, I don't need Greek or Hebrew because I'll never use it. Well, the fact is, you don't know what you would use or not use if you don't study it. And so it makes it interesting. So as I was looking at this chapter, studying this chapter again, chapter 9, verse 1 is the most important verse. And we have therefore taken a great deal of time in dealing and explaining, because it is the pitiful, I hate to pronounce that word. Pitiful. I can't get that word out. I'm talking too fast. To understand the rest of it is the key, is the central part of understanding Isaiah's style. What we don't know is that every man, every author had his own style of writing. And not in seminary, of course I never took Isaiah in seminary, and I never took a course on the style of writing that each writer had. They had a style that they wrote that made the understanding understandable. And so it explained, because it is not easy to say, but none of the modern translators have seen the importance of this verse. Almost all make the mistake of making the contrast in verse 1 a contrast of quality rather than of intensity. If you read this chapter carefully and see the reasons why the contrast is as we state it, you will then see clearly the changes in the scene between the Assyrians and the Messiah that Isaiah outlines. So when you look at the first 7 verses, when you see the first 7 verses, as we've said before, all we see is verse 6 and 7, and we ask ourselves, what does verse 6 and 7 have to do with verse 1 and 2 and 3 and 4?